it do, YouTube, man? It is your boy Solid back with another solid video, man. And animals that shock people with their IQ. Now, to me personally, I think animals are smarter than they ever, like, than all of us. I really do. I think they play stupid. I really do, because I be sitting there like, bro, I go to the zoo sometimes, man, and I be sitting there, you know, chatting and talking, and bro be looking me dead in my eye. Now I'm talking to my wife and he just looking at me like, bro, you know what I'm saying, don't you? And then as soon as I look at him, he want to like act like he ain't seen nothing, man. No, bro, you know what I'm talking about, man. But man, we're gonna go ahead and check this one out, man. If this is your first time seeing your boy Solid on your screen, man, do me a favor, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the good channel, and turn your notifications on so you never miss another Solid reaction, man. But let's get into this one to see what's going on, man.
Willing to do to make your dreams come true. A gorilla named Evelyn really wanted to get out of her enclosure. To do this, she climbed over a high fence 5 times and jumped over a moat. Anything, just to see a giraffe.
What? She just wanted to see a giraffe?
And this is just one of the stories of amazing escapes that happened in real life. Today, you'll learn how honey badgers imitate a house robbery, whether a parrot and a kangaroo can be friends, what zoo exercises are, and finally, which of the animals can be considered the most successful fugitive in history.
Oh, snap. Okay, we in this. Let's get it.
You don't need me to tell you that honey badgers are very cool guys.
Yeah.
Of course, there are different opinions about their fearlessness, and Steve and I even talked about it. But there's no denying
boy, look at the claws on that damn thing, boy.
Look
at the claws on that, boy. Oh, imagine if he could use them joints in the right way. He'd get you.
A lot.
He'd
For
get
example, escape from any place.
Okay.
And not necessarily from the zoo. The honey badger named Stoffel was raised among humans since he was very young. He was delivered to the Moho-Laholo Wildlife Rehabilitation Center to make his life as comfortable as possible. They couldn't release Stoffel back into the wild. He simply wasn't adapted to this life. Well, that's what the staff at the center thought. Stoffel had his own opinion on this matter. He wreaked havoc in the rehab center, killed smaller animals, broke into the kitchen, kicked out the staff, ran to the lions to fight them. As a result, he ended up at the clinic for 2 months.
Whoa, okay. What you mean? This nigga beefing with lions? What you mean he beefing with lions? He went over there and was like, hey, yo, y'all niggas owe me some rounds. I'm gonna need my ones.
I'm gonna need my ones to fight them.
I'm gonna need my ones.
He ended up at the clinic for 2 months. Eventually, they decided to protect the honey badger from the rest of the animals with a fence. Nice try.
Boy,
at first, Stoffel learned to open the lock on the enclosure door, and he did it together with the female.
Bro, this man, you thought you locked the door? You thought you locked? Hey man, I know I locked that before I left. No, you thought you locked, bro. I unlocked it, bro. You thought you locked. What do you mean?
From the rest of the animals with the fence. Nice try. At first, Stoffel learned to open the lock on the enclosure door,
hit the lock
and he did
on
it
that
together
joker.
with the female. That's what true teamwork can achieve. Yes, for some time, Stoffel was surrounded by ladies, but they were released into the wild later. The keepers began to wrap metal wire around the door, but Stoffel learned how to rip it off. They built a new enclosure for him, so reliable that it was even dubbed the Honey Badger Alcatraz. But still, the honey badger leaned a tree branch onto the wall and used it to scale the enclosure. They removed the branches from the tree. Stoffel dug up boulders, piled them up near the wall, climbed on them, and walked out.
Yo,
the stones had to be confiscated.
This nigga's a criminal. This nigga a whole criminal, nigga. I got niggas doing life in the pen, and this nigga escaping.
And at night, the keeper was awakened by the sound of a broken window. Naturally, he decided that there were robbers, but it was Stoffel who broke into the house. He escaped again, making large lumps out of mud in order to climb over the fence. Looks like he can use just about anything to get out of the enclosure. But how does Stoffel manage to do all this? Well, nature has blessed honey badgers with very large brains relative to their body size, and these animals became very smart. All the obstacles on Stoffel's path to freedom were just a game to him. Something like interesting problems needed to be solved. Actually, all honey badgers think the same way. Scientists have repeatedly tested their intellectual abilities, but it's Stoffel who's the true escape artist among honey badgers.
That man said,
However, many species kept in captivity love freedom just as much. Like Evelyn, the gorilla, who lives at the Los Angeles Zoo. For all the time spent there, she got out of the enclosure 4 or 5 times, at least. She did it in a number of ways. For example, she climbed onto the back of another gorilla and from there onto the wall. The height of the wall was increased, but Evelyn still found a way to climb over it. In another attempt, she used a vine to jump over a 12-foot wide moat. And most interestingly, Evelyn did not seem to be interested in breaking out of the zoo. She just wanted to look at other animals. For example, at giraffes. Once after she got out, Evelyn swatted a bystander's bottom. Perhaps the gorilla didn't even have a clear plan of action after the escape. But we'll get back to this later. I must say that Evelyn was very careful with her escape attempts. No one, except for the passerby she slapped, felt any discomfort. Meanwhile, a male chimp named Cha-Cha, who decided that he was tired of the zoo in the north of Japan, made a ruckus in the entire district. The animal managed to jump over the wall of the enclosure, climb a pole, and run along power lines. Cha-Cha walked 820 feet.
What? He just walking on power lines?
Away from the zoo before he was stopped, and even plunged on the wires before he was caught. The chimp was returned safe and sound to his enclosure, but 1,848 houses lost electricity during his escape. That's what I call a power move. In general, it doesn't surprise me that primates can escape from zoos using any opportunities and improvised means, even something like a stick, like those two chimps that got out of their enclosure at the Belfast Zoo. True, according to the staff, the chimpanzees are smart enough to understand that they aren't supposed to be outside the enclosure, so the animals got back very quickly.
But still, they went outside.
Just as cunning as their relatives. A female orangutan named Carta, who lives in Adelaide, became the reason the entire zoo was evacuated.
Okay.
To get free, she used a stick to short-circuit the wires around her enclosure. After that,
hit
Carta
the fence
took a few
on
more branches, leaves, roots, and other similar junk,
hit the
piled them on top of each other, and climbed onto the wall. The staff believe she did it because she lost her partner. That orangutan died of respiratory infection, and so Carta was quite upset about that. Well, everyone copes with stress and loss in his own way. However, it seems like Carta didn't really realize what she was going to do after the escape. Remember Evelyn, who just went to check the giraffes and was fine after that? Carta didn't even go anywhere. She just sat quietly for half an hour.
On the outside of the gate?
Realized that she did something wrong and returned to her enclosure. But visitors to the zoo were evacuated anyway, just in case. Another orangutan who didn't like staying in the zoo became so famous for his escapes that he even got a Wikipedia page dedicated to him. He even got his very own fan club. Ken Allen was born and lived at the San Diego Zoo.
Bro, that's some black stuff right there. They got them and said free Ken Allen, bro.
He became famous worldwide thanks to a series of 3 escapes. Moreover, the orangutan enclosure was considered escape-proof. But this didn't stop Ken. During one summer, he escaped 3 times, and after getting out of the enclosure, he peacefully walked around the zoo, looking at other animals. Ken has never shown cruelty or aggression towards zoo visitors or anyone else. Moreover, each time he calmly returned to his enclosure, as if his goal was not to escape,
he just wanted to see what's going on outside.
A new way out of the enclosure. To catch Ken at the moment of escape and find out how he even does that, the zoo staff began to keep a close eye on the orangutan. But they soon discovered that Ken seemed to know he was being watched.
They watching
Then
me.
people decided to act undercover, posing as tourists. They still failed to fool the orangutan. Moreover, other orangutans began to follow the
Bro, that's like, I don't know why. Oh, we gonna go undercover. Like, he know y'all face, bro. We like, hold on. Stephanie, you fed me this morning. What you doing in street clothes? Why you dressed like that? You watching me? You trying to see how I escape? I ain't giving it up that easy.
example of Ken Allen, breaking away from the enclosure. Eventually, zoo officials hired experienced rock climbers to find all the finger and toe holds in the enclosure and eliminate them. It cost the zoo $40,000, and only this stopped Ken from escaping.
Oh, so my
Actually,
man
it
was a mountain
seems like orangutans run away damn often. While Steve was selecting animals for this video, he found a lot of information about orangutans, more than about any other animal. And there's a perfectly logical reason for this. Numerous studies show that orangutans, which share 97% of the genome with humans, are among the most intelligent land animals on the planet. Well, that is, we also got elephants. But you see, it's quite difficult to escape from the zoo unnoticed several times when you're an elephant. To be honest, the escape of a kangaroo also seemed like something unreal to me, until I found out about what happened in a German wildlife park. Not one kangaroo, but 3 of them got out of the park at night with the help of accomplices. First, a fox from a neighboring forest dug a passage next to the enclosure. And then a wild boar made the same passage, but under an external fence. It's unlikely that the forest animals actually wanted to help, but the fact remains 3 kangaroos escaped, and it took a while to catch them.
Nah, that's a prison break.
But maybe
hey, big homie, dig a hole, man. You on the outside. Dig a hole. Hey, you dig a hole, bro. We all gonna get out of here, folks. That's a prison break.
there's something we don't know about kangaroos, and the escape was carefully planned in advance. Because sometimes kangaroos can communicate really well with other animals. Imagine you're driving along the road and suddenly notice a kangaroo on the side of the road.
Where's
Basically,
he going?
not the strangest scene.
Yes, it
Unless
is.
you're in Louisiana, damn it.
Yeah.
It's quite possible that the kangaroo just escaped from the zoo through the door opened by a parrot, because he and the kangaroo are pals. This is exactly what happened in July 2022.
Don't tell me they got video.
Thor helped Baxter the Joey escape. I don't know what the two were planning to do next, but they would have to come up with a new plan anyway, because both animals were quickly caught. And now to... What is this, Steve? Capuchin monkeys learn to use rocks to crack nuts. What does that have to do with zoo escapes? Okay, Steve insists, so let's talk about rocks and nuts. When it comes to the ability to use tools, you immediately think of the ancient people who used stone axes and actively evolved. But the bearded capuchins do exactly the same thing. These are very small primates that have been using tools for at least 3,000 years. Yes, they just put a nut on one rock, then hit it from above with the other one. But for animals, this is already quite complicated technology. What does this have to do with the topic of the video? You won't believe it, but there's a direct connection. Because rocks can not only crack nuts, but also break locks.
Big homie
a group
broke
of
out.
8 Capuchin monkeys used rocks to smash a lock and escape a zoo in the Brazilian state of Paraná.
Bro,
Shortly after, zoo officials were only...
How y'all catch him in 4K? Big homie got a rock about to knock Big homie got a rock about to knock that joker clean off. How y'all catch him in 4K and he still escape?
Able to catch 4 of the 8 fugitives, one of whom was discovered wandering into a local restaurant. The fugitives were led by a female named Ciara. It was she who armed herself with a rock and smashed the lock. It's not like the zoo staff didn't suspect that Capuchin monkeys were smart. No, they were aware of that and even realized that these small primates could use stones. But it never occurred to anyone that the Capuchins would break free using rocks. But you know what? I guess we talked too much about primates. Time to talk a bit about the birds.
Okay.
The male golden eagle, Goldie, made even a bigger ruckus than other fugitives. He lived in the London Zoo in the 1960s and managed to escape for 12 days. Can you feel the difference? Not half an hour, not several hours, but almost 2 weeks. Goldie flew away from his keepers when they were cleaning his cage. And after that, he did everything to avoid being caught. They couldn't catch him, despite all the efforts and special equipment borrowed from the Royal Navy and Civil Defense Corps.
You caught the Navy on a bird? You caught the Navy on a bird? That's wow. Who calls the Navy on a bird?
From the Royal Navy and Civil Defense Corps. The Golden Eagle spent most of his time in Regent's Park surrounding the zoo, attacking ducks and terriers and causing huge traffic jams in the area.
That man eat.
Drivers just circled the park watching Goldie fly. The Golden Eagle was caught only after the deputy keeper of the zoo lured him with a dead rabbit. During his 12 days of freedom, Goldie wasn't injured and was returned to the zoo to his mate.
That dude, wow.
We don't know why the Golden Eagle didn't take his girlfriend with him in the first place.
Because she was being selfish.
Can't take over another on his road to freedom.
You tell you why he didn't take her with her? He told her, let's go, and she said no. He's like, all right, then stay. I'm gone. That's why.
Well, meet Archie, the groundhog who escaped the Moscow Zoo in April 2022. He dug a tunnel into other enclosures and then teamed up with an akauchi, a South American rodent that lived close by. People discovered this by accident. You probably know that groundhogs hibernate in winter and wake up in spring. Archie lived in an enclosure with 2 females, and zookeepers were used to the fact that he always woke up first. But in the spring of 2022, instead of Archie, females emerged on the surface, and people got worried. It soon became clear that the groundhog dug his way to the bird enclosure. Then Archie visited the giant pandas.
Y'all can't tell me from now. I don't ever want to hear nobody say, man, you know, zoos ain't like prisons for animals. Them prisons, bro, them boys be breaking out. They like, no, we don't live here, bro. Y'all just got us here. We ain't even do nothing wrong. Free my nigga, what's his name? Poochie? What's his name? What's his name? I think, yeah.
Zoo security workers
Whatever
also
his name
found
is.
holes in the
Damn.
enclosures of black curassow and a couchie, and the latter
couchie,
escaped
yeah.
with them. The story's really very exciting, but there's one odd thing about it. The news about Archie's escape appeared on the 1st of April, and they made a bunch of memes out of it. Did the groundhog really run, escape? It's not clear. But if you suddenly notice him, you know where to call.
They still ain't found this man. He hit the lick of the century. You telling me they ain't found him? They ain't find him. He hit the lick of the century.
And they made a bunch of memes out of it. Did the groundhog really run, escape? It's not clear. But if you suddenly notice him, you know where to call.
This man hit the greatest. They still ain't caught my man. He laying low somewhere.
Though no one has any doubts about Inky the octopus, he lived in the National Aquarium in New Zealand. Like that character from Finding Dory,
escape a freaking
he
aquarium?
dreamed of getting into the ocean. Probably not because the octopus didn't like being around people. The aquarium staff believed that he just really wanted to find out what was outside. And one day, Inky got lucky. The lid of his aquarium accidentally turned out to be slightly ajar. Apparently, the octopus waited until night so that there were no people around, climbed up the glass wall, climbed over the edge of the aquarium, and carefully crawled along the floor. This is clear thanks to characteristic marks, and Inky had to cover 10 to 13 feet outside the water. Surely it was difficult, but the desire to get out was stronger. Then Inky got into the drain pipe and threw it, straight into the sea. And although it was a straight path, it was 164 feet long. That is quite a lot of time that the octopus spent with his body compressed. Of course, there wasn't a camera in the pipe, but I'm willing to bet that if there was, the escape would look no less dramatic than this.
Oh, Shawshank Redemption.
So the
I gotta
octopus
watch
ended
that.
up in the
That's
sea
good.
and then probably swam away. In any case, they never found it. In fact, evolution has blessed
Inky got
octopuses
the-
with the perfect body for escaping. First, octopuses can move on land. Of course, I stress that Inky covered a long distance outside of water environment, but in the wild, this would hardly be considered an achievement. From time to time, hunting or some other need forces octopuses to move from one reservoir to another. Also, even though Inky was the size of a soccer ball, he was still able to squeeze into a narrow pipe because that's what octopuses do. They shrink to such an extent that they can squeeze through even incredibly small cracks.
Ooh. That's crazy.
But an octopus that's climbed into some tiny hole doesn't sound like big trouble for people. That is, the aquarium staff, of course, admitted they miss Inky a lot and hope to meet him again someday and all
Inky
that.
gone. He in the hood
However,
somewhere.
if an octopus
Oh, God.
escapes, no one sends warning messages to the locals asking them to stay at home with their door locked. Unlike with a leopard who broke free, in April 2021, 3 leopards at once escaped from a Chinese zoo in the east of the country. As it often happens, the animals took their chance when their cage was cleaned. The handlers shot the first leopard with a tranquilizer 2 days later. The second leopard was caught with a wounded hind leg a month after the flight, but the third, it proved to be impossible to find it. Chinese officials sent 1,700 people, including dog handlers and nearly 1,000 drones to hunt down the third leopard, with no success.
They still ain't found
Neither
Big
the
Homie.
pilot on a special light aircraft nor infrared motion sensors installed near water bodies were of any help.
They still
The
ain't found Big
authorities even
Homie.
released about 100 chickens as live bait, but the leopard wasn't fooled by that.
I don't want
But
that.
the most interesting thing is that the information about the escape of predators was kept secret for almost 3 weeks.
How did
Why?
they get out?
So that people continue to go to the zoo and pay for tickets. Well, and to avoid panic. Maybe. You get it, right? Several deadly predators were wandering around people, and people didn't even know about it. After a while, the population was notified and even got warning. I've already mentioned earlier, leopard tracks have been discovered near mountain villages. Police are searching. Everyone, please securely close doors and windows and do not go out. How would you feel if you received such a message? Well, there is some relatively good news too, for people at least. In the wild, such a leopard won't survive for long, which means most likely it'll not have time to harm anyone. But I'll get back to this a little later.
Hold on.
For
No.
now, a few words about
Go
penguins.
back to my boy. What?
Tokyo Sea Life Park employees
Yeah,
were
you need to tell me-
confused when they received a phone.
You ain't even tell me how he escaped. I want to know how he escaped. How the leopard get out of there? Him and his 3 big buddies, boy. I get they tranked him, but how did they? You get what I'm saying? You gotta
Photo
come
of
on.
one of their penguins swimming in a nearby river. I mean, they're penguins. Outside of animated movies, they're not usually prone to escaping.
This nigga coughed.
After counting the penguins, the keepers found that the birds were indeed one short of the 135. But how exactly this happened is a mystery.
Cody's
The missing one-year-old penguin somehow managed to climb a stone wall almost twice as high as itself and plot a course through Tokyo Bay. Remember that penguins can't fly. Seems like this one didn't care about such minor details. In general, penguins jump surprisingly well. Maybe that helped. Unfortunately, we won't discover the truth, although the penguin was caught. By the way, it wasn't easy. Catching a penguin in the water's like catching a bar of soap. Penguins are fast, agile, and damn slippery. The only chance to catch such a fugitive is to sneak up on him on land while the bird's sleeping. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it suddenly turned out that this penguin escaped in some entirely unlikely way. Because the desire to get free does strange things to animals. For example, a wolf named Virginia decided not to obey the laws of nature, and in 1979 escaped from the Los Angeles Zoo several times, climbing trees, climbing over fences, and walking along the branches towards freedom. The she-wolf didn't care at all that she wasn't supposed to be able to climb trees. At one point, Virginia eluded vets and zoo officials for a month, and there's still no information that she returned to the enclosure. It's quite possible that after the escape, she enjoyed her freedom and didn't even think about the fact that she'd done weird things for a wolf. Raccoons also never missed the chance to escape, and nature also blessed them with excellent ingenuity. For example, a female raccoon named Missy apparently waited long enough for the right moment and decided to dig a tunnel right after a heavy rain in Somerset, England. The water softened the usually hard ground, making it easy to dig. Does this mean Missy got lucky?
No,
yes,
Missy's smart.
Twice. Because of the flood, the zoo staff evacuated many animals, but sincerely believed that everything would be fine with the raccoons. And the raccoons indeed were fine, just that one of them escaped. Missy was found just 5 weeks later near her native enclosure, as if she weighed all the pros and cons, assessed the risks, and decided to stay at the zoo. In fact, raccoons are quite smart animals. Maybe Missy just realized that her life outside the zoo would be complicated, so she didn't go far. And that's exactly what would happen anyway. I'm sure many animals escaping zoos just seek freedom. But the harsh truth is that in the wild, they'll simply die. Remember that leopard people couldn't catch?
Okay, now we're back to it. Yeah, this is what I want to know. This is what I want to know.
A study carried out back in 2008 found that most captive bred animals die if they're released back to their natural habitat. For example, there's only a 33% chance that tigers and wolves will survive in the wild, all because the animals behave quite differently in zoos than in the wild. They don't have the right skills to survive. They don't know how to get food. They don't know how to escape predators, and most importantly, they don't fear people. Often it's encountering a human that becomes a fatal mistake for an animal, but there are still viruses and other diseases. Conditions in zoos and various centers are too mild for animals to develop natural immunity to many of them. And don't forget that animals need not only to eat and survive, but also to procreate. This also poses serious problems. For example, male otters and swift foxes who used to live in zoos are less likely to mate and breed, probably because they lack social mating behavior. It's hard to compete with wild rivals. Territorial animals bred in captivity are unlikely to capture and hold any area. In general, the only way to release such animals to freedom is to place them in huge enclosures that resemble their natural habitat. Under such conditions, animals will mate, and the offspring will have a real chance of survival in the wild. Knowing all this, animal escapes from zoos seem far from harmless. But don't think that keepers are just...
Bro, no, y'all did it again. I want to know what happened to the leopard.
Waiting for some animal to escape. No, they're preparing and conducting special exercises that... Okay, let's be honest. These exercises loom as ridiculous as they can possibly get. A human in a suit of a lion or an ostrich wanders around the zoo while other workers are trying to catch him. Yes, they're catching their colleague in a ridiculous suit. Yes, just like they would catch runaway animals, except tranquilizers, of course. And it's actually not a bad idea, but did you see that lion's face? Oh, I want to get Steve that suit. Steve! Hey, Steve, I got an idea.
All right, man, that's the end of this video, man. I want to know what happened to the leopard. That's what I want to know. Like, you ain't even let me know what happened to him. Nobody told me that. Did he die? Cause it sounded like he escaped and he survived. And he out here still kicking. Y'all still ain't caught that man. Just let me know. Let me know if my boy LP got out. Let me know if he got out and y'all ain't seen him again. That's the real talk. All right, man. But thank y'all guys for checking out this one, man. I will see y'all in the next video, man. Y'all take it easy. Peace.